Welcome everyone to Vintage Noise, right here on our YouTube channel.
Glad to be here.
Today, we're cracking open the history books, or maybe the garage doors, on a really fascinating car.
We're looking at the Mercedes-Benz 400.
This car was built between 1924 and 1929, right in the middle of that huge merger between Daimler and Benz.
A pivotal time for the company.
So our aim today is to figure out how this early high-performance luxury car kind of navigated that whole transition and how it set the stage for what came next.
And it definitely left its mark. I mean, if you need one reason why this car matters, it's how it brought racing tech to the street. Seriously.
Okay.
Its big feature was that switchable roots supercharger. The compressor, you got this huge power boost instantly. Think of it like an early sport mode, but from nearly 100 years ago.
That's the hook right there. Let's start at the very beginning then, 1924. This car was born, like you said, almost into two different families before they officially merged. What was going on at the factory when it first appeared?
Well, initially, it was purely a Daimler product, made by Daimler Motor and Gesellschaft, DMG. It was sold as a Mercedes.
Just Mercedes.
Just Mercedes. But yeah, the whole backdrop was these intense financial negotiations between Daimler and Benz. They actually signed a kind of cooperation deal in 24. But the full legal merger, the creation of Daimler-Benz AG, that doesn't actually happen until 1926.
So, okay, if I bought one in, say, 1925, it was a Mercedes.
Correct.
But if I bought the exact same model in 1927...
Then you were driving home a Mercedes-Benz.
Yep.
After 26, they officially rebadged the existing model as the Mercedes-Benz Tip 400, for clarity.
Makes sense.
Although people in the know, especially engineers or keen drivers, they often still called it by the original numbers, 1570100 PS. It's a perfect example of how company history gets stamped right onto the car.
Okay, let's unpack that number system then, because 1570100 PS, it's not obvious today. We get PS is metric horsepower for to start, but three numbers, why?
Right, this is key to understanding cars from that era in Europe. The first number, the 15. That has zero to do with actual power output.
Nothing at all.
Nope. That's the tax horsepower.
The government's number.
Exactly. It was calculated based on the engine's physical dimensions, bore, stroke, number of cylinders, a standard way to classify cars for tax, even if it didn't reflect real performance. For this car, it related to a displacement class around 3.9 liters, 895 cc specifically.
So they taxed the size of the engine, not what it could actually do. Interesting.
Which brings us to the 70 and the 100. Now, these numbers are what the driver cared about. These are the actual power outputs in metric horsepower. 70 PS, that was the normal power the engine made.
Okay, let's unpack this. 70 PS normally. That means the 100 PS must be the big deal, the special part. That's a huge jump, nearly 50% more power. That has to be the compressor we mentioned.
That's absolutely it. That's the heart of this car's identity. But before we get to the magic button, or pedal, the engine itself was pretty advanced.
Okay.
It was a nearly 4-liter inline-six, 3 to 920 cc. Even without the supercharger, for 1924, this was a sophisticated unit in a luxury car.
What made it stand out?
Mostly the valvetrain. It had an overhead camshaft OHC. Now remember, most cars back then, especially mass-market ones, were still using older side valve designs.
Right, much simpler.
OHC allowed for better breathing, higher engine speeds, basically more potential for power, and the cam was driven by a vertical shaft, which was another sign of, well, quality and expense.
Sounds nicely engineered, but yeah, that extra 30 horsepower, that's the really exciting bit. And you said it came straight from their racing efforts.
Absolutely. It was the switchable roots type supercharger, the compressor. Daimler was one of the pioneers of supercharging in racing in the early 20s. This car was among the very first road cars to get that technology pretty much directly handed down.
How did the driver actually turn it on? Was there a switch on the dash or?
No, it was more integrated than that, more visceral, really. It was linked to the accelerator pedal. When you pushed the pedal past a certain point, essentially, when you floored it at clutch engaged, the supercharger spun up and boom, forced air into the carburetor.
So full throttle meant full power, the 100 horsepower, but just cruising along, you were using the base 70.
Exactly that. Without the compressor engaged, the engine made its 70 HP at about 2,800 RPM. Push through that detent in the pedal travel, the blower kicks in, and power jumps to 100 HP, peaking a bit higher at 3,100 RPM.
Makes sense.
We should probably mention the compression ratio, too. It was quite low, around 4.7 to 1.
And why was that? Low compression with a supercharger.
Yeah, it seems counterintuitive now, but back then, with the fuel quality available, you couldn't have high compression and forced induction without serious problems. like engine knock or pre-ignition.
Ah, okay.
So the low compression was basically a safety measure to let the engine handle the extra stress and heat from the supercharger without blowing itself up.
Right, and all that power meant it was pretty quick for its day.
Oh yeah, for a big luxury tour, it was genuinely fast. Depending on the final drive ratio the customer chose, there were a couple of options. 4.88 or 5.33 top speed was somewhere between 105 and 112 kilometers per hour.
So around 65 to 70 miles per hour. That's moving for the mid-20s.
Definitely. Most cars were cruising much slower.
Yeah.
This thing was built for covering ground comfortably and quickly.
Okay, let's shift gears from the engine to the rest of the car. The comfort part. This wasn't a lightweight sports car. It was a luxury machine. What was the chassis like? And what kind of money are we talking about?
The structure was definitely heavy-duty, but tough. It used a strong U-section pressed steel frame. Suspension was pretty standard for high-end cars of the time. Solid beam axles, front and rear.
Leaf springs.
Yep, semi-elliptical leaf springs. Though, interestingly, the early ones had cantilever springs at the rear as well, for maybe a bit more ride control. Rear-wheel drive, of course, through a prop shaft. They called it a cardan shaft then. 4-speed manual gearbox and a multi-disc dry clutch. Pretty robust stuff.
And the price. You mentioned exclusive.
Extremely exclusive. Just the bare chassis, remember, no bodywork at all, cost 14,250 Reichsmarks.
Wow. How much was that, relatively speaking?
Well, put it this way. A skilled factory worker in Germany back then might earn maybe 3,000 or 4,000 Reichsmarks in a year.
So the chassis alone was 4 years' wages for a good worker.
Easily. Which is why a lot of the very wealthy buyers, people like the famous opera singer Richard Tauber, he had a custom one they bought just the chassis.
Right.
And then they'd take it to a specialist coach builder like Erdmann and Rossi, or maybe the factory's own custom body shop at Sindelfingen, and have a unique body built for it. Total bespoke luxury.
But Mercedes or Daimler-Benz, they did offer their own factory bodies, too.
Oh, yes. If you wanted a complete car, you could get it. But the
Okay.
price went up steeply. A Torpedo Touring wagon that's like an open tour was one option. A big Pullman limousine cost 22,750 RM. A Landaulet, with the convertible roof over the rear seats,
Yeah.
that was 23,000 RM. And a Cabriolet was around 21,500 RM. These weren't just cars, they were major status symbols.
Absolutely. One small detail I find fascinating from this period is how quickly things like, ergonomics were changing. Didn't the early 400s have the gear lever in a really weird place?
They did. You're right. Initially, the gearshift lever was mounted outside the car body.
Outside.
Yeah, right next to the driver's right hip. It was kind of a holdover from much earlier car designs. But clearly, as cars got more enclosed and frankly more user-friendly, they realized this wasn't ideal.
Must have been awkward.
I imagine so, especially in bad weather. So fairly early on, especially after the merger solidified things, they moved it inside to the center of the floor, much more like what we expect today.
That really shows how things were evolving, even basic controls. So thinking about the bigger picture of how the car evolved during its production run, what were the key engineering updates?
The single biggest improvement came in 1927. It massively improved the handling. The engineers figured out the car's center of gravity was just too high, especially with those big, heavy custom bodies people were putting on them.
Okay, how did they fix that?
They changed the whole chassis layout.
From overslung to underslung, right. What does that actually mean?
So the original design, called overslung, or Hochbed, in German meaning high bed, had the main chassis frame rails sitting on top of the axles.
Right.
The new design, underslung, dropped the frame rails below the axle center lines. This physically lowered the entire chassis, and therefore the body and engine, significantly reducing the center of gravity.
And that made it handle better, especially at speed.
Much better, more stable, less prone to body roll in corners. Crucial when you've got 100 horsepower on tap and can hit over 110 kilometer odor. It was a big step towards more modern driving dynamics.
Stability's good, but with that speed and weight, you'd need better brakes too. Did they improve those?
I did, yes. Towards the end of the production run, maybe 28 or 29, they added a Bosch Duandry vacuum booster.
Servo-assisted brakes?
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't a fully hydraulic system yet, but it used vacuum from the engine manifold to help apply the mechanical brakes on all four wheels. It meant the driver needed a lot less leg effort to slow the car down.
Big safety improvement.
Huge. And less tiring to drive on long journeys, too.
So wrapping this up, the Mercedes-Benz Tip 400 or 1.570/100 PS, it feels like more than just another old luxury car. It's like a physical record of that Daimler-Benz merger. It captures that engineering ambition, mixing Daimler's racing tech with the need to build a flagship for the new company.
Absolutely. And commercially, it remained very exclusive. Total production was just under 2,000 units, 1943 cars, across both the Mercedes and Mercedes-Benz branding phases.
That's not many at all.
No, it was definitely a car for the elite. About half were built before the merger, half after.
Sounds successful in its niche, but I guess that level of exclusivity couldn't last forever if they wanted to grow.
Exactly right. The Tip 400 was important. It set a standard. But its successor, the Mercedes-Benz Tip Nürburgring 460, the W08 model, showed the necessary next step.
How so?
The Nürburgring was still a big luxury car, 8 cylinders even, but it was designed for more efficient production. And crucially, it was priced more competitively. So were the 400 sold under 2,000 units? The Nürburgring sold almost 4,000. It shows Daimler-Benz shifting towards, well, slightly higher volume, even in the premium market.
So the 400 really represents that final, maybe more bespoke, hyper-engineered phase before things scaled up.
I think that's a great way to put it, a truly transitional piece of technology.
Okay, here's a final thought for you, our listeners, to consider. Just imagine driving this car in, say, 1926. You're behind the wheel of this stately, expensive machine, but you know that if you push your right foot all the way down, you unleash this secret weapon, an extra 30 horsepower straight from the racetrack. That physical connection, that immediate boost.
Yeah.
What cars today, even high-performance luxury ones, give you that kind of direct, almost mechanical link to raw track technology, where you actively engage the boost rather than just selecting a pre-programmed sport mode? Something to think about.
That directness is really something special. Performance luxury, almost unfiltered.
It really is. Well, thank you for joining us here on Vintage Noise for this look at the fascinating Mercedes-Benz 400.
My pleasure.
We'll catch you next time for another exploration into automotive history.